everyone, maxforti back with another video. Thank you so much for tuning in. This is going to be another segment of the good, bad, ugly, underrated, and overrated. This time around we're going to be covering the house of Pal Zileri, which in my opinion happens to be a hidden gem of a fragrance house. And the reason why I say that is because of what they bring to the table, which is quality and pricing. Stay right there, it's coming up right now. So today we're going to be covering another good, bad, ugly, underrated, and overrated. I have here the 7 offerings from the Collezione Privata or Private Collection of this line, Pal Zileri, which they're pretty good fragrances, and I'm going to get to them in a second. The way I do it, we're going to basically cover the 4 first ones that were these 4 right here, and then they added 2 more, and then the last one that they added to the collection was this one right here, which is the Oud one in 2013. So we're gonna, the first 4 were in 2010, and in 2012 they added 2 more, and in 2013 they added the last component of this fragrance collection, the Collezione Privata. Now a little background on this company. Pal Zileri, it's pretty much a men's tailor clothing line. It's a company that started in the 70s, 1970 to be exact, in Italy, in the region of Veneto, and it's all about well-tailored suits. And as you look here in the boxing, in the casing of these fragrances, they're actually pretty nice, and they evoke and emulate textile. Like if this was a suit or a shirt, a nice dress shirt, and even has like the stitching on the side. The stitching here on the side of the label. Very nice. And when you get these private collection items, if you're lucky enough, in some of the offerings, you're going to get a pocket square just like this one, a silk pocket square. In some instances, I've seen people receive amazing Pal Zileri silk ties. So Pal Zileri, back in the 70s until about the early 80s, they've done some collaboration with Trussardi and also with Moschino, which was a way for them to start to get more recognition and more shares in the market, in the Italian market, before they went abroad. Pal Zileri, again, it's a men's house that offers tons of accessories, from umbrellas to pens to leatherware, shoes, wallets, and obviously shirts, suits, ties, all that good stuff. Nowadays, Pal Zileri is actually available in 70 countries worldwide, and their fragrance collection has a total, not only the private collection, which has 7, but their fragrance portfolio in total has a total of 16 fragrances and counting. I think the last one they made was actually a women's fragrance that they released, was their first women's fragrance that I believe was released in 2013, if I'm not mistaken. So let's get into the good, the bad, the ugly, the underrated and overrated from the private collection of Pal Zileri, the Collezione Privata. So this time around we're going to do from left to right. I believe I always do it from left to right. The original 4 here, which is Blu di Provenza, which was from the 2010 release. So Blu di Provenza was the first release, along with Cashmir Ambra, or Cashmir and Ambra. Also the Colonia purisima. And the last one, but not least, is the one that Fragcom knows the most, which is Viaggio di Africa. And then in 2012 they released 2 more, which is Cuoio, which is a leather-based fragrance. And they also released Fuer Elen, which was also released in 2012. And their latest and last from the Collezione Privata was Essenza di Oud. They also jumped into the Oud wagon and released a Oud-based fragrance in 2013. And up to date, they have not released. As a matter of fact, I think this collection has been discontinued. So, which gets me to my next part. They're very great quality fragrances, and you can find them very well discounted out there. If you look carefully, it's getting harder and more scarce to find these fragrances, and the prices will start to rise a little bit. I've seen the Oud one, the Fuer one, and the leather one go for pretty high fetching prices. But the original 4 I've actually seen at very, very fair price. So if you do your search, if you're in the Fragcom, I'm sure you can find these for really reasonable pricing, and they're going to really amaze you, and I'm going to get to it right now. So the first one we're going to get to is this one right here, which is a Blu di Provenza. Got myself a little test strip here. We're going to spray them and give you guys sort of like a first impression of each one of these. Sprays are actually pretty good on these. Alright, so Blu di Provenza is just amazing. What I get from Blu di Provenza, it's basically, the initial blast is going to really envelop you and really give you this amazing kind of scent. Think about Acqua di Gio, think about these very aromatic fragrances that we have in the market today. But this fragrance here just takes it to the next level because it adds this almost nutty kind of feel to it that it's very unique and it's almost gourmandish. It is a rather linear scent. It's going to be stronger and then starts to dissipate and start to get weaker as you progress into the hours. With this fragrance here, I get 6 to 8 hours, which is really not bad for an aromatic. And most of these fragrances, if not all of them, they are eau de toilette, but they perform very much like an eau de parfum. Again, with the Bleu de Provenza, you know, once you get off of that initial nutty kind of gourmandish opening, it gets to be a very aromatic citrus with a lavender in the background and some honeyed oud in the background. Really nice fragrance. You know, one that you really should check out from the brand. Definitely worth checking out, especially for the price. I think you can find Bleu de Provenza, if I'm not mistaken, at fragrancenet for not even 40 bucks. So definitely one to check out. Next up here, we're going to talk about Cashmir and Ambra. Again, the distribution is just amazing. So really amazing distribution. Now, Cashmir and Ambra is your basic aromatic, aquatic, fresh, citrus kind of fragrance. But again, with all these fragrances, they added something to them that gave them a real nice, sophisticated, elegant, and chic. And because it's a private blend, they made sure that the quality was definitely there. Again, they all perform, you know, at least 6 to 8 hours. Some of these, the heavier ones, I get 10 plus. Really can't go wrong. I think this one here, the Cashmere and Ambra, you can also find at discount sites for under 40 bucks. I believe Lily Direct has this fragrance for under 40 bucks, if I'm not mistaken. Again, you're gonna get that traditional citrus aromatic, aquatic kind of vibe with some woodsy undertones and embellishments that will make this fragrance really unique and a compliment get. I wore this a couple days ago and I got a lot of compliments, and it's one, again, for the price, get them while you can before they become totally discontinued and hard to find. Next up here, we're gonna go with, again, from the 2010 to 2010 original lineup, this is Colonia Purisima. Now, Colonia Purisima is basically a take on the Colonia, the original Colonia, the classic smell like the Acqua di Parma Colonia, Colonia Intensa. That's what you're gonna get with this. It's tremendous, amped up citruses with a little bit of amber in the background that dry down. Again, very clean, very fresh, very crisp, a gentleman classic kind of scent. Definitely worth trying. I think, again, fragrancenet, all these discount sites will have this one still in stock for under 40 bucks. You can't go wrong. It performs amazing. If you like Neroli Portofino, you know, 4711, all those classic Colonia kind of, you know, fresh, crisp, invigorating kind of, you know, fragrances. This is what you get with this one. And it's really amped up. You're gonna get 8+ hours. You can't go wrong with this one either. It's a great signature scent or even like a work scent. Next up is the last one from the 2010 original lineup, and it's none other than Viaggio di Africa. This one here happens to be one of Fragcom's favorite from this line. At one point, it was some hype going on. I actually have a full review of this one right here, and it does have nuances of, you know, Hermes's Vetyver Tonka. This is just beautiful. Amazing, amazing scent. Reminds me a little bit also of Bal d'Afrique, although it's not as sharp and not as strong as Byredo's composition, but it is quite nice as well. And this one here, I think, is probably the hardest one to find from the original lineup of 4. If you can get it now, because I can see this one here fetching higher prices. Probably on eBay, you'll be able to find this around 50 and 60 bucks if I'm not mistaken. This one here is very green. You have a very nice honeyed vetiver in the backbone, some woods. I get 10+ hours with this one. This one's definitely amazing. And if you can't get a fragrance like Vetyver Tonka, if you can't get a fragrance like Byredo's Bal d'Afrique, and you want something, you're on a budget that's going to give you that same kind of vein, same kind of genre, same kind of smell, feel, this one here will do wonders, and it's definitely one to check out from the brand. Let's get to the next two now. These next two were released in 2012, 4 years ago. This is Cuoio. If you translate this, it's actually leather, and it's basically a leather-based fragrance. And what you get with this fragrance, it's a take on If you like leather-based fragrances like Tuscan Leather, like Godolphin by Parfums de Marly, that's what this fragrance was aiming and going for it. And to me, I get a very subdued and lighter version of Tuscan Leather. It has that beautiful suede soft leather with some raspberries undertones. It has a little bit of amber, some saffron. I get 8 to 10 hours with this one, and it's really, really nice. You know, if you can find this, you're gonna be paying for 100 ml a lot less than you would for Tuscan Leather or Godolphin. Again, you know, pound for pound, it is a very nice fragrance, one definitely worth checking out. It smells great. If you like those kind of fragrances, you'll sure to like this one. The other release in 2012 is another one that's really amazing. This one here is called Fougère Eleni. This one here is a classic fougère with a twist, a modern twist to it. Again, class and elegance through and through with these compositions. This is just unbelievable. It takes the fougère and it gives it a little gourmandish undertone to it. It reminds me of something, but I can't quite put my finger on it right now, but it is niche quality. All these fragrances, with the exception of maybe the original two here, they all have that niche elegance, that niche sophistication and uniqueness that you don't get normally with the mainstream stuff. And this one here, Fougère Eleni, is no exception. It's gonna give you that exoticness, uniqueness. Really amazing. I totally love this fragrance. You take like an original, traditional, classic fougère and you add some gourmandish, some gourmandish components to this fragrance. That's what you get with this. It's a little bit nutty as well. It's very aromatic. It reminds me of something that Xerjoff would put out. It's really amazing. And again, all these fragrances will get you 8 to 10 hours, no problem. Last but not least was the 2013. I mean, they had to jump into the oud bandwagon. This is a sense of the oud. This one here is oud, and it's the darkest one. If I'm not mistaken, this was actually an eau de parfum. This one here will last a long time, but it does have a very medicinal, very dark, and a little bit animalic oud to it. So this one here will be the most daring and challenging of all the compositions. This here is not as easy to wear, and it's not going to fetch the most amount of compliments. I got to be honest with you. But if you like, you know, daring, if you like, you know, oud, this one here is definitely one to check out. It's, you know, quality through and through. It's going to give you 12 plus hours. And it's very, very pungent and strong. It kicks you in the ass. You gotta be careful. You gotta wait for this fragrance to really, you know, the first blast, the first half hour, go slow on the triggers, or otherwise you're gonna choke people around. Don't even think about wearing this in the hot heat. It's really pungent, very animalic, and extremely medicinal. But it does, you know, after the first half an hour to 40 minutes, it starts to get a little small, a little smoother, a little softer, and it's easier to appreciate the scent. This here has cashmere wood, has some spices and some amber to tame it down a little bit. So if you do wait after the first 40 minutes or so, the magic begins, and this is a quality fragrance as well. I believe this happens to be one of the hardest ones to find, and it fetches a pretty penny. But again, if you look carefully, I'm sure you can find it for a good price. Unfortunately, you know, these were discontinued. I believe that, you know, 2013 they were discontinued as a whole, so it is harder and harder to find them as we're on 2016 now. So it's only going to get harder. If you can get them while you can. So that's it. I don't want the video to go too long. As you know, these videos tend to be a little longer. So let me get into the good, the bad, the ugly, the underrated and overrated from this house. So the good from the house, I'm going to go with none other than Colonia Purisima. Colonia Purisima to me is a great take on the classic, traditional, manly, you know, Colonia genre and vein. I think that if you like those kind of fragrances, you know, like I mentioned before, like Acqua di Parma Colonia, Colonia Intensa, Neroli Portofino, you know, all those classic, you know, traditional Colonia kind of fragrances, you're gonna love this fragrance. It lasts a long time, and it's definitely a bargain for what you can get this for. So this is going to be my good. The bad to me is going to have to go to Cuoio, the leather-based one, which, you know, there's so many great leather fragrances in the market today. And if you want something like Tuscan Leather or Godolphin, you know, I would go to those fragrances instead of trying to find this, because it's hard to find. And even if you find it, you're going to be paying a pretty price because it's discontinued. So I would stick with the big guns. You know, your Tuscan Leather from Tom Ford, your Godolphin. But if you can find this, however, for under $100, you know, between 60 and 70, I would get this fragrance. It's definitely a great fragrance. for what you're paying. You're gonna get quality for sure. But that's why I would give this one the best. The ugly to me is going to have to go to the oud fragrance here, the essence of the oud. The only reason is because, again, it starts off extremely strong and pungent and very animalic and medicinal. If you're not a fan of the medicinal and animalic oud like I'm not, this fragrance here will probably not be for you, and the initial blast will definitely turn you away. So that's why I will give this one the ugly. However, if you're a big fan of, oud and animalic ouds, and you like challenging and daring fragrances, this one here is definitely going to be a quality fragrance that you definitely ought to check out. Now, the last two here are going to be my most underrated and my most overrated. So let's start with the underrated. I think the most underrated from this house is, without a shadow of a doubt, Fougere and Lenny. Now, the Fougere, the aromatic Fougere genre happens to be one of my favorites, along with Oriental woody and Oriental spicy scents. So I love this scent. You get hit from all different angles. It has that aromatic Fougere type of classic traditional scent with infused, gourmandish, and very modern, elegant kind of scent. It's just very unique, very exotic. Definitely an amazing offering from this house. Fougere Lenny is an amazing scent. If you can get it, this is definitely the most underrated. I've never heard anything about it, and it's a 10. It's a perfect 10 to me. I will try to get another bottle of this if I can, and it's just hard to get. I think I paid about 65 bucks for this, and again, it's getting harder and harder to find them, but I'm going to try to get myself another one. I think this is the most underrated from the house. The most overrated will have to go to Viaggio di Africa. Again, just like the leather one, it is a very nice fragrance. You get about 8 to 10 hours. But if you want this kind of fragrance for what this does, I would stick with Byredo's Bal d'Afrique, or even Vetyver Tonka from Hermes. However, Vetyver Tonka, I don't get as good projection as I get with this one. It gets very close to the skin very fast. With this one here, I get a better projection than I get with Hermes's Vetyver Tonka. So, between the two, I would go with this one for price, pound for pound. But I have to pick one, so I think this was the most overrated, and it's also the one that's mostly talked about. So that was it for me, guys. I hope you appreciate it. I wanted to do another good, bad, ugly, underrated, and overrated. I wanted to bring a house to limelight that you don't hear much about except from Viaggio di Africa. And this is a house that definitely deserves a little bit more attention from the FragCom. Unfortunately, most of these fragrances have been discontinued. They're getting harder and harder to find, but if you search carefully, you'll be able to find these gems for under 60 bucks, which is really a bargain for what you're getting. Now, if any of you watching have tried or smelled any of these compositions, please be kind enough to drop down in the comment section which ones are your favorites. What do you think about these fragrances? I love to know what you guys think about this house. But to me, it's definitely one that's deserving of attention. It's definitely one that if you can get them for under 60 bucks or under 70 bucks, it's definitely a great bang for your buck. This was Max Forti with another good, bad, ugly, underrated, and overrated. Till next time, see you later.